They say football is the only sport in the world where the argument is as old as the game itself. Not who's the best player, not who'll win the league. The real argument, the one that splits nations, divided dressing rooms, and shaped the entire history of the sport. It's much simpler. How should football be played? Should you bolt the door and dare them to break it down? Should 11 players flow like water, every one of them being able to do every job on the field? Or should you simply never give up the ball? These aren't just tactics, these are philosophies, belief systems, almost religions. Welcome back, guys, to the Football Corner with Shreyas. This is episode 3, and today we are going to tell you the story of 3 great ideas that built the modern game: Catenaccio, TotalFootball, and Tiki-Taka. Where they came from, the men who preached them, the players who made them sing, and how every top manager alive today is borrowing from all the 3. So grab a coffee and let's get into it. And let's start our story in Italy, and we start with the door. Catenaccio. It literally translates to the door bolt, and that tells you everything about the philosophy. Lock it, bolt it, nobody gets in. But here's a fun bit of history. Catenaccio didn't actually start in Italy. Its grandfather was an Austrian coach named Karl Rappan, working in Switzerland in the 1930s. He had a part-time semi-professional players who couldn't match fitter, richer teams man-to-man. So, he invented a system called the Veru, the bolt, where he pulled one defender out of the line and dropped him back in the defense as a safety net. The Italians took that idea and refined into a giant art form. Coaches like Nerio Rocco built it up through the 1950s. But the man who turned Catenaccio into a dynasty, the high priest, was a charismatic Argentine-French coach named Helenio Herrera at Inter Milan in the 1960s. The team became known as the La Grande Inter, the Great Inter. So how did it actually work? 3 big ideas. 1. The libero, the sweeper, the free man. While your defenders man-mark their attackers tightly all over the pitch, you kept one extra defender. Inter's was Armando Picci, with no man-marking job at all. He just patrolled the space behind everyone else, sweeping anything that broke through. A goalkeeper in front of a goalkeeper, you can say. 2. Absorb and then strike. You let the opponent have all the ball. You sat deep, stayed compact, soaked up all the pressure, and then the moment you won it back, boom, you sprang forward in a lightning counter-attack. 3, and this was Herrera's genius, he didn't just defend. He had Giacinto Facchetti, a left back who attacked, a defender who scored goals. In an era of pure defending, that was revolutionary. The overlapping fullback was practically born here. Add the Spanish playmaker Luis Suarez, the Ballon d'Or winner, pulling the strings, and Sandro Mazzola up top, you had a proper machine. So you ask, the honors, Serie A titles, back-to-back European Cups in 1964 and 1965, back-to-back Intercontinental Cups. For a few years, Inter were the best side on the planet. But here's the thing about Catenaccio. Some people hated it. They called it cynical, negative, anti-football. Win 1-0 and go home. And there's a beautiful symbolic moment. In the 1967 European Cup final, Herrera's Inter ran into Jock Stein's Celtic, a widely attacking Scottish side. They called themselves the Lisbon Lions. Celtic just attacked and they won. It felt like a message from the football gods that the bolt can be broken. And somewhere in the north, in the Netherlands, the answer was already being built. If Catenaccio was about controlling the space by removing it, TotalFootball was all about controlling that space by owning all of it. So this is the Netherlands, Ajax, the early 1970s, and the man at the center of it, the architect, the general, was Rinus Michels. Now, the seeds went back decades. An English coach named Jack Reynolds had planted attacking positional ideas at Ajax years earlier. But Michels built the cathedral. He called it Total Football. Total Football. Here's the core idea, and it's genuinely radical. In most systems, you have your position. Right back stays right back, striker stays striker. In total football, the positions are fluid. If your left back surges forward into attack, he doesn't leave a hole. The midfielder slides into left back, and the forward drops into that midfielder's space. The shape, it stays perfect, but the players are constantly rotating through it. Think of it like a school of fish. The shape holds, the individuals swap places endlessly. For that to work, you need a very specific kind of a footballer. Every single outfield player has to be technically complete, tactically brilliant, and supremely fit. Because anyone might have to play any role at any moment. And they pressed aggressively, high up the pitch. The philosophy was make the pitch as big as possible when you have the ball, spread out, stretch them, and as small as possible when you lose it, squirm, squeeze, win it back instantly, often with the offside trap snapping shut right behind them. The conductor of this orchestra was, of course, Johan Cruyff. On paper, a number 9, in reality, he played everywhere, dropping deep, drifting wide, appearing in spaces no defender could track. Around him, Johan Neeskens, the relentless box-to-box engine. Ruud Krol, a defender who attacked like a winger. And then there were others, Johnny Rep, Ari Hahn. The trophies were stunning at club level. Ajax won 3 European Cups in a row, 71, 72 and 1973. But the international story is bittersweet. The Netherlands reached the 1974 World Cup final and played the most beautiful football the tournament has ever seen, and they lost the final to West Germany. They reached the final again in 1978 and lost again. It's the story of the greatest team to never win the World Cup. Michels did finally lift silverware with the Dutch. It was in Euro 1988 with Gullit, Rijkaard and Van Basten. They were the ones carrying the torch. But Total Football's real trophy wasn't a cup. It was an idea. One that was about to be carried south into Spain by the man who understood better than anyone himself, Cruyff himself. Here's the connection so many people miss. Tiki-Taka isn't a separate religion from Total Football. It's the child of Total Football, and the bloodline runs through one man. Michels brought Cruyff to Barcelona as a player in the 1970s. And then in 1988, Cruyff came back as Barcelona's manager. He built the dream team, won Barcelona's first ever European Cup in 1992, 4 straight league titles, and crucially, he rebuilt the entire club's identity around possession, the 4-3-3, and a youth academy called La Masia. Now, playing in the heart of that dream team as the deep midfield pivot was a thin, cerebral young Catalan named Pep Guardiola. Pep absorbed every lesson, and when he became Barcelona manager in 2008, he distilled Cruyff's philosophy into its purest, most extreme form. The world gave it a name, Tiki-Taka, a phrase popularized by the Spanish commentator Andres Montes, the sound of the ball going tick-tack, tick-tack between players. The principles? Possession is defense. Cruyff's old line, you can't lose the ball if you have it, and they can't score if they don't have it, so you keep it relentlessly. 2. Positional play. Juego de posición. Players occupy very specific zones, creating triangles all over the pitch, constantly offering passing angles, building numerical advantages in tight spaces, and drawing out your opponent, stretching them and slicing through the gap that opens. And of course, the 6-second rule. The instant you lose the ball, you don't retreat. You swarm it all together and win it back within 6 seconds. Pure total football pressing, just refined. who were the musicians? Some of the greatest who ever lived. Xavi and Andres Iniesta in midfield, the telepathic, Sergio Busquets, the metronome at the bass, and you all know Lionel Messi, reinvented as a false nine. The striker who broke the midfield and broke defenses that had no idea where they were supposed to mark him. The honors are absolutely absurd. Guardiola won 14 out of a possible 19 trophies in 4 years, including the Champions Leagues in 2009 and 2011. The 2011 final, where they dismantled Man United, is held as one of the greatest team performances ever. And then Spain took it national, the first team in history to win 3 major European tournaments back-to-back, the Euro 2008, the 2010 World Cup, and the Euro 2012, built on the same Barcelona spine. But every religion eventually faces its reformation. By 2014, Tiki-Taka had become predictable. Teams learned to sit deep, a little bit of Catenaccio's old wisdom. Let Spain pass it sideways forever and hit them on the break. Spain crashed out of the 2014 World Cup. The purest form of football had hit its ceiling. So the great managers did what the great managers always do. They started mixing the religions together. So where do all the 3 ideas live now? Everywhere, blended. Guardiola, he didn't abandon Tiki-Taka, he evolved it. At Man City, more vertically, more directness, and tactical inventions like the inverted full-back and the inverted centre-back. Defenders stepping into midfield to control the game. He used John Stones in exactly that role on the way to the treble in 2023. Same Cruyff DNA, just control the space with much sharper teeth. Then there's gegenpressing, counter-pressing, which is really TotalFootball's high press turned into maximum volume. Codified in Germany by Ralf Rangnick's school and made iconic by Jurgen Klopp. Back-to-back titles at Dortmund, then the Champions League in 2019 and the Premier League in 2020 with Liverpool. His phrase, the best playmaker is the counter-press. Win the ball high, strike before they reorganize. He called it heavy metal football. There's a fascinating counter movement too. It's called relationism, championed by Fernandinho Diniz, whose Fluminense side won the 2023 Copa Libertadores. Instead of rigid zones, his players cluster together in fluid, improvised groups, which honestly feels like TotalFootball's interchange married to the Brazilian street football. And Catenaccio, it's far from dead. Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid, a compact, ferociously disciplined defensive block that springs vicious counters, is Catenaccio's spirit in a modern shirt. 2 La Liga titles on pure organization and grit. Jose Mourinho also built a glittering career on the same pragmatism. The libero became the ball-playing centre-back. The bolt never really left. So what's the lesson after 60 years? The pure religions are mostly gone. The best teams in the world today are hybrids. They'll dominate possession like Pep. They'll press like Klopp, and they'll defend in a low block like Simeone. Sometimes all the same in the 90 minutes. Catenaccio taught football discipline. TotalFootball taught it freedom. Tiki-Taka taught it control. And the modern game is the conversation between all 3. Still going, still unresolved, still the best argument in sport. And with the World Cup ongoing, watch for it. Every nation will bring its own flavor of this debate onto the pitch. So that's it for today's episode of the Football Corner with Shreyas. If you enjoyed this one, share it with your friend, the one that you argue the tactics with. You know the one. I'm Shreyas. Keep it logged to the Football Corner. See you guys. Bye.